I read 100 Million Hearts, one of the things that really hit me and opened my eyes was the experience of Japanese Canadians who dealt with so much racial prejudice and made to feel so inferior, how they felt when they went to the Japanese Empire, not Japan, but to someplace like Manchuria, and how that shift in status was for them a kind of mind-blowing experience. How did you kind of imaginatively reach those characters and imagine that setting?
Oh, I know, it was a dark place. No, I mean, the reading that I did, and I looked at biographies, self-published biographies, and things of people who experienced that. Yeah, it was a real dark immersion. And that, I guess that was really what, that was like the most intense period of my, evolving relationship with Japan, my imagination about it, and trying to reconcile everything. My parents as victims and being mistaken as Japanese, and of course for people who were repatriated, and I mean, there's so much that comes out in this novel. To me, it's like it's endlessly complex and fascinating, and there's so much yet to be mined and explored. But I think it's helpful to look at other literatures, other diaspora literatures, to sort of understand dualities and contradictions.
Yeah, Lynne, I mean, your novel is, I think, of all the Japanese Canadian novels I've read, the one which looks at Japan in most detail, and imaginatively bridges, in a sense, these different groups, whether they're white, Japanese American, or Japanese Canadian, or Japanese, and mixes that together. How, when you think of Japan, I mean, you spent the most time in Japan, you learned the language, you learned literature, and translate. But how, in that process, has Japan kind of become, is part of your kind of literary lens? Is it I'm interested in how you arrive at that, how you see it.
Well, it's a difficult question because I don't really know myself, but I think when I started writing, I started by writing short stories, and I tried setting them in Japan. It was a way of creating a kind of distance because it's so hard to write. So
creating a distance to what?
To any subject, like want to write a short story. What am I going to write about? Kind of hard,
Yeah.
right? So then you think, oh, I'll set it in Toronto or this and that, and there's that. But also sometimes it's helpful to set some distance. Maybe in some cases can free the imagination a little bit. So you can set that distance in time, maybe historical years, or even into the future, for instance. Or you can create that distance by writing in the voice of a man, or whatever, right? So in my case, I started by writing short stories set in Japan. It was a way of kind of tricking myself into writing. So I'd have to describe something, but I wasn't describing this, the Toronto subway system or something that everybody knew. But I could sort of allow myself a little bit, or what I thought was a little bit of leeway.
Yeah.
by describing something that I'd seen, that I knew. But, you know, most people reading in English maybe didn't know, right? So I allowed myself that kind of freedom. It freed up my imagination, I guess. That's how I started. And so then, when I started to think about writing something longer, I wanted to set it in Japan. And once I got the idea of setting it in this particular time period, then I was able to bring the different characters together. But yeah, I find Japan to be a very interesting imaginative space, I guess.
I mean, the 1940s seems to have this almost gravitational pull on so many people, you know, and then of course, in the case of the war, half of the 40s is the war and half of the 40s is the post-war. And in your novel, you know, you kind of are connecting to that amazing energy, but also trauma of that period. But you know, I mean, Ishiguro writes. When I read The Electrical Field, the first writer, I thought it was Ishiguro because of the way that he developed that character, a little bit like Remains of the Day, that sense of gradual revelation, some hidden reality. But that's also where, in a sense, a lot of the riddles, the diagnoses for the things that followed, right, seem to be rooted. Certainly for my family too. My dad, during the war, obviously he never talked about it, but that for him changed him, and therefore changed me to some extent. When I talked to Haruki Murakami about this, he felt the same way about his father. And I talked to him right after he finished writing Watada, and I think to some extent that Watada book too is stories my father never told me. You know, so that period seems to draw our interest. I don't know if this extends to what he's saying.
My relationship to Japan. Well, I visited Japan once. I taught English there during my undergraduate days. This is something that I touch on to some extent in my memoir. And for me, the experience there was one of quite extreme estrangement, I would say, because I don't speak a word of Japanese, yet everyone, just like in restaurants, of course, expected that I would. And then to complicate matters, I was traveling with you know, my Jewish Caucasian boyfriend, who's perfectly fluent in Japanese. So he's translating everything for me. So I felt like everywhere that I went there, I was attracting all of this sort of unwanted attention to myself, like just simple things, trying to order a meal and becoming this sort of spectacle or freak show. So that's I suppose one aspect of my engagement, actual engagement with Japan as a place. My imaginative engagement with Japan, I think it's somewhat similar to the way, maybe somewhat similar to what Kerri was in Lynne were describing. Like there is this sort of sense of vanished homeland, or a sort of search for lost cultural origins, perhaps. I think in my own writing, in the novel that I've just finished, one of the ways in which Japan factors into the narrative is in terms of the protagonist, this young woman. Her mother has gone back to Japan and abandoned the family. She met a lover on the boat going back to visit Japan, and then never came back. And this is sort of loosely drawing on some actual events. For me, like one thing that sort of comes to mind whenever I think of Japan is this doll that my grandmother brought back from Japan on her first visit when she was a teenager in the 1930s. She went on this trip there I believe she was being sent to meet with, she mentioned meeting with a matchmaker when she was there, and there seemed to be some speculation that she might meet a husband and stay in Japan. And part of the reason why her parents were sending her over there was because they wanted to get her away from my grandfather, who was seen as being kind of wild and a bad influence. But they continued to remain in touch by letters, and then after the year was over, she came back and brought this doll with her, which she passed on to me after she died. And so whenever I look at this doll, I sort of think of that crossing and that possibility of having stayed there and what that would have meant for the entire family and lineage. Like I would be here, you know, I would be a completely different person. And so I suppose that sort of specter of that other self is also sort of tied to my association with Japan.
Now, we've been talking for just about exactly an hour in this format. So we have a nice circle, and I think it would be nice if people make comments or questions from the audience. And you guys can talk to each other as well, so kind of break down the pattern. Anybody?
I'll be Japanese now.
Yes.
I think it's very inspiring today because writers chatting among yourselves, so we can hear when you are not really talking, prepare a topic and for the audience, right? It's really natural, and I really enjoyed it, especially how to fill in the gaps and things, and how to, because history kind of been passed down from our ancestors or parents, or something, a family, piece of ornament or something. But all these things has triggering power, and if you kind of connect us with a remote past that we didn't have a share, and if we go there, it's a dark land, and we have to explore. And but it's kind of it's a mystery. It's also part of the thing that cultural heritage, and we do want to go there. Once we become writer, we do go there, even if we don't know how. That journey sometimes, when you reach this level, there's a reward when you get a novel done. But the long journey, it could be long and dark and twists and turns, and emotionally, it's very demanding. I'm going through that myself. It's very hard. A lot of times, I just think, I can't do this. But I don't try to put it aside. I don't hear the calling. I just feel, I've been to the land. My mother was there. I went there. I feel that. I feel I got to do this. But then I know nothing about them. How I'm going to do it, right? Then I put it aside, and I still want to go back there. So I think that's the connection. It's mystery energy.